That's funny.
Well, guys, y'all are in for a serious treat today. Myself, Jake Thomas, bringing you a real treat. And someone that's been a hero and person that I looked up to myself. I'm going to make him blush for sure. Tell you a little bit about him, but he's a two-time Olympian, a three-time gold medalist in the 400 meters sprint, as well as in the 4x400 meter relay, with a couple of other keynotes you might have remembered in the past. And he's definitely smiling, he's definitely blushing, but nonetheless, he's somebody that knows a lot about what we talk about and what it means to be sick, scared, and stupid, and how to overcome that, why it matters, why it's important, and how maybe hearing some of the things from a great like Steve Lewis, you might be able to apply and find a way for yourself. So without further ado, Steve Lewis, live from
Hermosa Beach.
Hometown.
That's right, yes. Yes, yeah. Steve Lewis, your friendly neighborhood Olympian is what I like to call myself. No, excited to be here. Thanks for sitting down with me. Very excited.
We became friends real fast because I knew he went to UCLA.
And you went to that other school.
I went to that other school.
Yeah, in LA.
So we clicked up quick on that. How do you make winning look so easy? How do you make setting a world record look so easy? When I finish nothing near that, I'm keeled over, dying, looking to vomit, looking for oxygen, and blue in the face. And you finish world record time in '88 at 19 years old. You're just like, oh yeah, that was cool.
It's all in the preparation. It's the things that happen behind the scenes, right, that prepares you for those moments. But yeah, it's the hard work that pays off. Because it's not easy. I feel it. I just don't want to show it. You never let your competitors see you sweat. So yeah, never. I was very young when I had all that success, and my career ended abruptly, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But I always just wanted to be healthy and well and fit, and when I inspire others, particularly kids, I want to look the part, right? If I walk up to say, oh, I'm an Olympian, I want to look like an Olympian, right? And so, because I didn't really have that. I mean, as I think back, I had some idols. I idolized Carl Lewis, but I didn't really meet Carl Lewis until I became a professional athlete. But as a kid, I was really never around great athletes. I had my teammates when I was young, and we trained together. But I never really seen anyone that looked like me. So when I go out and talk to kids, I want to look like that friendly neighborhood Olympian, that superhero. So that's why I continue to do what I do. Yeah.
Well, you're definitely still doing it.
Thank you. And we all have so many different experiences, right? And I grew up in South Central LA. Single parent household. My mother raised my siblings and I. My father was never in the picture, and it was tough. And living in South Central, a lot of different things I could have gotten to that were negative, but my mother was like, "No, you're gonna stay off the streets. You're gonna get into a sport, do something." So I gravitated to track and field, and they ran for a local club called the Los Angeles Jets, which was at the time one of the biggest track teams in the city. And I would win races, and it was just a great thing. I would run, and I would win, I would run, I would win. And at the time, I never thought about even college really early on, and it just kind of led to that. But, I had my moments as an athlete when I was younger where I doubted myself, and I was good. I was the fastest at my grade, my age, and I remember one experience where my coach at a track meet, he warmed me up. I was about 14 years old. And I was just nervous that day. I just didn't feel confident that I would run well. So I said, I'm just going to hide. And, I said, I'm just going to go hide after I warm up, and I went and hid behind a building at this meet. And I figured, when I come out, I'll just come up with some excuse why I wasn't there. And I waited and sat there and just thought about things kids think about when you're that age. And I finally got up, and I walked toward the track. My coach ran up to me and was like, there you go, they just called your race, time to go run. And I'm like, wow. So here it is, I'm thinking I'm not ready, and I was fearful and scared, and I went out there and I competed and I won the race. But I learned a valuable lesson that day. Never doubt myself, never doubt the process, believe in yourself and believe in my coach. And I, from that day on, that never happened. And that experience, that reference point I took with me years later when I was at the starting line in the Olympics when I was 19. I was in the starting blocks. I thought about that moment where I doubted myself as a 14-year-old. There's nothing that I can do at this moment that's going to make me any faster. I couldn't run one more fast stride that's going to make me run any faster in this race. Let me put my best foot forward and run. And I went out there and won. This was at age 19. So that was a valuable lesson for me. You know, I was scared.
Is that not the greatest metaphor? But I mean, obviously you did it literally.
Yeah.
Like, how many of us don't do that or do that all the time?
Yeah.
Like, talking about it a little while ago at the coffee shop, saying like, the voice of just quit.
Yeah.
Just stop. You know, nobody's gonna see. Like, you can just do it.
I
just peel off the side of the road.
That's what I did.
Oh my God, man. That's life right there, though. Like in high school, like when you're in the blocks, was it almost like an empowering recollection? Like when you were remembering that and just being like, I remember doing it. Yeah, I
literally was sitting there, and it's just because I was afraid to fail, and I learned that you can't be afraid to fail because you're going to find out something about yourself in the process, and I did, and it was just one of those things. I'm just going to go out here and perform, and it was incredible.
It worked out pretty well.
It worked out pretty well. Yeah. My power leg, I always had my left foot in front, my right in the back, so that was always the same. Yeah. He's a Trojan. We're going. No one changed. You know what? I just think. You start doing something, obviously, as and I was a professional athlete, and you get with the coaching and you kind of refine certain things, but, we're always trying to improve, right? But I was a pretty good starter. I got out. Pretty good. Better starters. That 400 meters, though, 43.87, it's still the world junior record, actually. It's probably a 35-year-old record.
Can we get a picture of that?
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's it, 43.87.
43.87, 43.80. Yeah, that was it.
Did you have pre-race traditions or like any things spooky ghosts you had to shake out or something you do? I say that because I used to always choose Skittles right before. Purple bag only. And it would literally be the second before I'm getting in the blocks, I'm like, I'm going to slam this bag. And people would be like, why? For the sugar? I'd say, yes, one for the sugar, but also because it would make me feel like a kid. And it would take a little bit of seriousness out of the race for me. For 1 second, it made me go, even though I'm intimidated because he's from Princeton and Penn. Relays, and I'm definitely not going to, we'll see how I'll do. But the skills that made me just feel like giddy for a second and take me out of it but still be in it.
Well, that's the Trojan talking in you. We didn't. That's Bruins now. I was a big Oreo cookie fan. I mean, I love my Oreo cookies.
Okay.
Right? I might have one in my pocket. You could always find an Oreo cookie around me, but not too many rituals. I mean, I would. I went through a serious, visualization. Right. I would basically before my race. I didn't hide anymore, but, that turned to me just kind of visualizing what I needed to do in my competition. So I did that a lot. I had my private moments. I'll share a story with you. I remember my first Olympics in '88. I stayed in the Olympic Village. And this is just this microcosm of the world's greatest athletes, right, in a secure area. And everything's free. We had our own McDonald's, right? But you have the U.S. track and field athletes in a living quarters next to the Spanish soccer team or the British swim team, whatever it is, right? So every night before my rounds to compete the next day, I put my Walkman on. That was the old school Walkman, right? With the cassette, I would walk around the Olympic Village and would listen to these people speaking in their language. I felt like I was walking around the world in one night, right? So I'm sitting here like taking this, and that's really where I had the first sense of community, right? Here we are, these great athletes from all over the world. We had one mission, to do great things, to be the best, right? And we in the politics, it was just about performing. Right. We spent our life getting to this point. And so I just remember thinking about that every night before my round. I'm listening to my music and I'm listening to these people singing their languages. And then I would go out there the next day and perform. But that was just an incredible experience for me, coming from, again, South Central LA and now in Seoul, Korea on this world stage with all these great athletes. That was incredible. That was like
it's 88 cassette.
So I was, Lisa Stansfield. I've been around the world and I can't find my baby. Oh. I was listening to, I'm an old school cat. I had some loose ends.
Oh my God.
I was old school cat then. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. It was great. It was
villages too.
Yeah, it was great. It was a great experience. We had our own McDonald's and bowling alley, and I'm sure it was different now, the tech, compared to what, because I mean, I remember they had a computer in our little room somewhere, but it wasn't now, you know, you can communicate on your phones. It wasn't that.
Right.
Wasn't that. We've evolved, we've advanced so much with technology since then. Proper preparation prevents poor performance, the 5 Ps. So I'm a big believer in that. If you fail to prepare to fail.
Talked about that earlier. Salt.
Yeah, all that, yeah.
What you get, Jake. You know?
Gotta take your pit stops, so you gotta.
When did you start seeing, you talked about injury, let's say that first, like what, if you want to go into it a little bit,
yeah.
like what, what that's like to, I don't want to say lose, but have that feeling taken where you still had the years in front of you. You still had potential. You still had Atlanta in the sense, right? Yeah. Like, everybody loves talking about the golds and the medals. It's like, I say that the hardest thing is the walk away, or like, I don't want to say accepting it, or like, how do you take that news? Where do you go from there when it's everything is like being that person, that identity, that superhero that you created because you didn't have it. It's what you envisioned. It's what you expected to be, and now you're like, all right, I have to pass that torch, so to speak.
So it's a lot to unravel there. So I'll say this first, that most athletes don't leave their sport on their terms, right? Because you get injured, you get old. There's a faster, stronger athlete in lane 2 ready to take your spot. So that's the hard part. How do you pivot? But for me, being an athlete, it's injury is just kind of part of it. You're constantly tearing muscles. It's micro tears all the time. I mean, you're pushing yourself out there on the track when you're training, but how do you balance that, right? It's the nutrition, it's the rest, it's, all that's important, the balancing, right? So as an athlete, I'm trying to stay healthy while at the same time push myself to the limit. I mean, when I'm on the track or training, I am out there, pushing the limits because I want to see what I can get out of my body. Right? And I had my share of injuries. Fortunately, I was always ready for the Olympics. But, throughout my career as a sprinter, I tore some hamstrings, right? But I came back and I competed, and I had a lot of success there. There was a year where I got really sick in '90, and this is after the '88. So I won the '88 Olympics, and had to go back to school, UCLA, and get my education. And I was getting ready for the '92 Olympics. But in 1990, I got sick. I was sick for a year, some unknown virus. Went to many doctors. None of them could figure out what was going on with me. Yeah. And I was literally a shell of my former self. I mean, I could not train. I'm at UCLA walking on the campus, and I'm just a year. I was literally sick for a year. This is a 1990
Olympic champion already, and working
2 years later,
Barcelona.
Yeah, absolutely.
2 years later, you were
I was down. I am the prime. 2 years later, I'm like just the epitome of athleticism. I mean, I'm like the Olympic champion.
Right.
1990, 2 years later, I was absolutely defend my title, and so. Like, wow, what do I do? And I'm like training. I couldn't train. I go out there, but I have my teammates and my family are supporting me. But I'm literally, I just was weak, and I thought it was it. And then as suddenly as I was sick, I was well again, after about 11 months. And now I have to ramp up for these '92 Olympics to try to defend my title, right? So now I'm really starting from scratch. I'm trying to build my strength up. And mental again, right? I have to build all that up after being sick for a year. Fortunately, I was able to make the team in '92 to try to defend my title. And, I ended up taking second in the Open that year, but we also broke the world record in the 4x400 meter relay, and I had a great year.
Time.
Yeah. But you talk about ups and downs and pitfalls and how do you prepare, the balancing, like you just never know. But you have to always be ready here. You have to be ready to respond and react when it's time. And, I was always ready. I said, I'm going to keep pressing. I felt like I worked harder, but, my body wasn't quite there, but I was determined to go out there and defend my title. And, but that was hard. But sickness and injury, it just happens. How do you overcome that? And it was the mindset, right? And so fast forward, so 92 team. 1994, I was living in the Valley in Los Angeles during the '94 earthquake. The house started shaking at 4 in the morning, and I did the thing you're not supposed to do during an earthquake. I got up and tried to run out of the house. I slipped, fell on my tailbone, collapsed my disc, L5S1, ended up needing 2 surgeries after that, and that's what ended my running career. The earthquake and the collapse, and I have screws in my back because of it. And it was done. Yeah, I was in my prime, 25 or 26 at the time, was still looking for at least 2 more Olympics. Atlanta, and then, I think Sydney was after that, yeah. So I had a lot more unfinished business. Fortunately, I had a lot of success prior at, Olympic medals and world records and great experiences and memories, but it was time to pivot. Like, what do I do, right? And that's the hardest part, with something like that with high, with sports, you just never know. And so, fortunately I was able to pivot and get into something else, but, that was hard. That was hard.
Was it, two questions. One, during the sickness, the 11 months.
Yeah.
Were you ever, how scared did you get? What kind of fear was there? Was it more ignorance that was helping you, or did you have enough positivity and mindset, like, it's going to change, it's going to go away, it's going to go away? And then when the break happens, or the fractures happen rather, from the earthquake, who broke the news to you, or did you know right then, or was it a doctor that had to say, I'm sorry, man, but you're never going to do it again? And how do you take that, man, at that point?
Yeah.
Like, how do you take that?
So with the sickness, I while I was going through it, I didn't feel like I was going to ever get through it. I was literally, because every day, because I had the chills and it was just and the weight loss, I didn't know what was going on with me. I went to specialists and they just did, they were doing all sort of tests and I'm young, at the time, I'm 21, and I'm like, what's going on with me? I'm like, I just didn't feel like I would ever get better, But I would show up to the track and do what I could. And most times I couldn't do anything. I was just too weak. And then eventually, I was able to do more. I just kept coming out, and I just didn't, and I had my support system, my family, my friends, my coach. I just kept showing up. That was huge. That was huge. My grandparents were there. And regarding the fall, and when I fell down the stairs, I landed on my tailbone hard,
which is a horribly painful break.
Yeah, but I was still I didn't realize at the time, and this was in '94, what had happened. I was still training, but I kept getting injured. I kept, it's funny when your back and your spine is just crazy because you feel sick when you have a bad back, right? The fur pain, and so I would always feel weak. And I would run. I kept pulling, and I probably wasn't even pulling the hamstring or straining. I was just getting these little pulls and tweaks in my muscles, right? But it would just stop my training. It just kept happening to me until finally I went to go see a neurosurgeon, and he's like, "Oh, the first surgery." He said, "Oh, you have a cyst on your sacrum." So the first surgery was in '96, and he took the cyst out. It was like a twisty tie. It was like it was pressing nerves and it was causing problems. Took that out, and I still was training. But I kept getting injured, it just wasn't the same, and then I went back to the surgeon, did an MRI, the disc space was black, and he said, oh, it's collapsed. So you need to get a fusion, so they put some screws in me, and that was it. I tried to run after that, but it's just my gait was off. When they say you lost a step, I just wasn't the same. And my stride pattern, I was just off, and I couldn't really, that thing that I had that separated me from the rest was gone. And that was it. Yeah.
What's that like waking up to that though, like that feeling, or realizing that, like to come from, again, literally the top of the podium, knowing what's still in you as far as the potential, knowing what the field is like, and like, I'm definitely going to beat him, I can definitely do, like, knowing all that's there, and like, he still got it, that, it brings me to tears to think about it.
Oh, man.
About people that we work with, or that we all know collectively, in the sense that what they've given up on, where they've fallen short because of this, lack of belief, and, how do you, I don't know, like, honestly, how do you do that? Like, how do you take that and survive? Like, how do you not walk off a cliff? Straight up. Like, I'm serious. Like, how do you not say, life is over for me? Why me? Why would you do this? This going through the sickness. At what point in there are you what did I do to deserve this? Like all the self-loathing, the inferiority complex, self-sabotage, like the doubt, like the world is crippled by that everywhere. And you couldn't be a more epitome of someone that's got everything, that's going for more, and then it's gone.
Yeah.
In words, how do you do that, man?
The suffering makes you stronger. And that's really, you know, what it was, because I think about where I started, where I came from, right? Single parent household, and the struggle and how she sacrificed for me and my brothers and sister, and I just couldn't give up. It was just really just pushing on. I mean, even now, you know, I work out, I like working out, I do these crazy videos, but I can do so much more even now if it wasn't for the bad back, right? That's like, but I still want to push myself to the limit, but I think about, you know, what if? You know, I mean, I would probably jump off that pier over there into the water.
Let's go.
But, you know, but no, there's so much more I want to do now, but I'm limited just because of, you know, issues with my back and the spine and the screws. But yeah, I mean, I enjoy challenges and pushing myself, and I think that's why I'm still as active as I was, because I didn't leave my sport on my terms, because I still had a lot more that I wanted to do in the sport, and I think that's kind of what pushes me to do a lot now. Well, every day I rise, I am energized with the strength and courage to accomplish all my goals, and the compassion to inspire and help others.
It's
awesome.
I love it.
People ask, they're like, does it really matter, like all this hocus pocus, self-actualization, positive talk, spirituality, like you can keep thinking it's hocus pocus.
It's
nonsense.
It's real.
It's real, man. Like the voice in there, like talking about racing and quitting, and yeah, you want to quit during races and training.
Yes.
Like you didn't want to quit during sickness, and why have you forsaken me? Cursed me. Me.
Yeah.
Me, as opposed to, okay, selflessness kicks in, my family, my mother, everyone around me, the community that supported me, like, what about for them? What if I'm just a vessel of servitude to be able to embody this message, to be able to promote everything else that these other people have worked for and still believe in, yet I'm going to quit on that?
Yeah.
Because I got sick?
Yeah.
Because I got injured? Because a parent left me? Hey, guess what? Our parents all left us. You know, everybody's sick.
Yeah.
Everybody gets injured.
Yeah.
Circumstances are different, sure, but it's like, I remember telling friends of mine that applying to schools years ago, like, look, man, everybody went to Harvard, no one cares.
Yeah, it's true.
Like, everybody got the 160 LSAT, no one cares. Like, act like that. Not to think that people don't care about you or don't care for you, but just that if you walk around and think like it doesn't matter, I'm no better than anyone else, I'm no different than anyone else, but I have a chance to be something unique, sure.
Yeah.
But that no one's gonna care. No one's gonna judge me. It's just gonna matter how I judge myself.
True.
And I'm only competing against me. Like in those races, I remember running against some cool guys that I knew were physically just more gifted than I was, but to watch them how they presented themselves before the races were won before they started. From the prowess, from the just bravado these guys had, Scott Green, Charlotte Carey. I was like, God, these dudes are cool. Like
that's how I won most races, just the bravado and just
the swag,
before,
right? The intimidation, you know. And that's in life, right? Every day of being, like you talked about, we have three pillars of to be happy, healthy, and wealthy. Yeah. Defined by each of us differently, but like, is that not the holy trinity of life? Is those three things are what matters most, but that is a lost part in life of people not believing in themselves and being able to quit instead. And talking about, you always have the two choices of either the choice of giving in or the choice of chance. And the choice of chance does not guarantee success. Oh no, definitely not. For sure it's terrifying. For sure it can be crippling in the mind and it makes you hide behind a building when you're a teenage kid before a track meet, but then leaning into the fear and finding courage in the face of the adversity, the fortitude to have to withstand the pressure of performance. The ultimate pressures of performance, Olympics, for God's sake. That's
stage.
That's it, right? I mean, that's it. Like, theorists are great. Theory and all that is awesome. But practitioner, the operator, the person that's in there, like, you can tell me all you want about your books. But until you've done it, and you have continued to do it, and continue to endure and pivot, like,
Yeah.
well, I don't know, where does it go from there, man? You know, why keep doing it? Again, like, it's about maintaining the legacy of people before us and whatnot, but there's got to be more.
I mean, it's, you know, for me, it's just how many reference points can I create, right? Because ultimately, you think about a constellation, right? You look in the stars and you see all the stars up there, you're just connecting these dots to make something beautiful. So I just have all these reference points because at the end, it's just going to be something beautiful. All these experiences.
That's the common bond, is the suffering.
Yes.
Like you touched on earlier, there's nothing without it. And I think that's what we shy away from now. That's what people shy away from. You know, like my mother and I were talking about it the other day. I was training my mother on Christmas morning, by the way.
Oh, wow, standing, wow.
A lashing of a workout.
Wow.
With a 20-pound vest on.
Oh, wow.
Farmer's walks, and 72 years old. Killing
Love it, love it, love it.
And we were talking about the difference between pain and injuries, or pain and fear, and how they're not always the same. You know, being hurt and being injured are very different things. Being in pain and being afraid can be very different things. They can also be related, but being able to differentiate these things, to not shut down when one of those faces appears. I'm in pain, now I'm afraid. For many people, that means stop everything now. For some people, that means it's time to double down. It's time to, like, this is when the work kicks in. This is when, now the fun begins. Now the race has started. Right? But when there's just pain without fear, it's like, okay, I can kind of deal with it. Or when fear just comes out without pain, that can be a hard stop for a lot of people. And like knowing, again, when these things come up, but without testing that hypothesis, without trying to find that hormetic stress in life somewhere, you're never going to know. And I say this is like a parameter of tolerance. If you live within this world and you never endure, you never try to go through things, and we all go through different phases of endurance, types of endurance. But if you never test yourself, and what we have found, you definitely found, on the track, on a place where something so simple of just running laps around a track could give you such a competitive and comparative advantage in life. Amongst peers, amongst colleagues, amongst families, amongst your children. To be able to say that, guys, I don't want to leak the secret out, but like, you want to find genius? Just go run a few laps around the block. And you're going to delve into the depths of your mind and your soul that you would never think could have been so profitable.
That is so true.
But did.
That's so
and
true.
Why we encourage people to find themselves through sport, and that it doesn't have to be a track or an Ironman. Just go for a walk, tune the world out, and see what you find inside yourself. Because if you can open and expand this tolerance of hormetic stress, when the bird poop comes right next to you, it won't seem as bad because you've become familiar with these places of pushing yourself. And again, whether it's through Ironman or competitive this or that or track and field, it's just, I think that if the world could learn to embrace some of that suffering a little bit more, they'd be able to overcome a lot more things. In this space, right, I do not believe in many illnesses in the sense that prescription drugs are not the answer over and over and over again. And I've seen that at the VA hospital many times, because though the Hippocratic Oath states Rule 1, to do no harm, yes. At the VA, there's an asterisk above that. It's not written, but it's don't let this person walk out and kill themselves.
Correct.
Meaning, hey, that's a win for us, because that's the battle we're up against. It's not just about, hey, let's try to get into Steve Lewis personally and prescribe a medication rehabilitation plan for whatever his needs are. It's like, just make sure he doesn't kill himself, please. On to the next one. Just make sure she doesn't off herself today, please. And I might see 100+ patients a day.
Wow.
And then we start, okay, oxycodone, a little Hypnol for you, a little Concerta over there, a little Zempidol, whatever. To keep people sick, scared, and stupid. But at least they're alive. Is that really being alive? If you're not trying to be sick, scared, or stupid, don't listen to us. Maybe take the words from Steve Lewis.
Your friendly neighborhood Olympian,
Of a little bit of insight. But thanks again, everybody. I'm Jake Thomas. And for all of us here at Sick, Scared, and Stupid, hope you'll never be.